Well, this here is the VW Polo for 2023, all new car. Well, actually, it's not all new. As you can see, the silhouette of the car has remained largely unchanged for the last 9 or 10 years, but the big changes, of course, are under the bonnet. This car now gets a whole new 1-liter turbocharged petrol engine, which makes about 110 bhp, and it is the most powerful engine on any compact hatchback. And it also now gets a 6-speed manual gearbox. Out goes the earlier 1.2 TSi with the 7-speed DCT, and in comes this new engine. In terms of power, as it's a great car. In terms of looks also, it's a little old now, but still, if you're in the market for an urban looking sophisticated design which doesn't really shout out too much and looks modern and sophisticated, even then this is a car which you'll appreciate because it is very solidly built. So that's something which is nice. In terms of looks on the outside, from the front end, it will remind you of the GT TSi, which it replaces, the early version of the car with the 1.2 liter petrol engine. And in terms of the lamps, well, there you get only halogen bulbs. There aren't any projector lamps over there, so that's a bit of a negative for some people, but it's quite okay because it looks good and the beam is strong. The grille is all new, it gets a chrome strip, the bumpers are new, and of course on the sides you get a running board, a strip below the running boards on the side to make it look a little more sporty. As I said, it is looking a little old now, but still, if you want a sophisticated, sober looking car, this is a car which a lot of buyers still appreciate. Anyways, in today's video, we'll talk about the positive first, and we'll drive this car first because the big positive, of course, is the engine and the gearbox. And after that, we'll talk about some negatives, and then we'll help you figure out if you should consider buying this car or not. But before beginning, here's a quick message from budmo.com. Well, Budmo, as you might be aware by now, is the online expert in terms of spare parts. If you want a spare part for your vehicle, they have it in their list. They have the most extensive spare parts catalog, right from the most affordable small car to the top of the line luxury car, you name the car, and they have the spare parts for it. And the best point is that they have the spare parts from a host of different component makers and different price segments for the same spare part. So if you want to buy a cheaper part from a different maker or a more expensive part from a different component maker, they have the option for you. And they also promise you 10 days assured return without any hassles. If you don't like the spare part, you can send it back and they'll return all the money to you in the first 10 days. So budmo.com is the name of the website. Well, so here I am driving the VW Polo now, and we're starting off with the driving bits of this car first because that's the big change. The engine is a big change on this car. And of course, it's a new 1-liter turbocharged engine which makes 110 bhp, and really it is the best engine in terms of not only power but in terms of the way it delivers its power, because the power is very, very well delivered. It's delivered from a very low RPM of about 1100, 1200 RPM. It's a very responsive engine in that right. And also the gearbox is a very good gearbox. It's a 6-speed unit. It's manual that I'm driving. And the gear shifts are very accurate. It's a sporty gearbox. You do need a bit of a heavy hand to shift. It's not as light as maybe a gearbox on the Swift or the i20, but it's quite okay. It's not overtly heavy also. The steering wheel is really a gem of a unit. It's got the right amount of balance, the right amount of feedback. Now this car is a nimble car in terms of the handling, and the chassis dynamically it feels very, very good, and the steering wheel also feels very good. The grip levels on the tires is very good. They're 195 by R16 tires on this car, so they're wide section tires and the grip levels are very good in that department. But the best point about this car is not the steering wheel or just the tire grip, it's the overall suspension setup. And the suspension on this car is absolutely first rate. If you're driving on the highway, this car gives you great stability, great confidence, and really soaks up all the bumps. And even in the city at slow city speeds, all the rumble strips, all the crevices, all the joints on those bridges and flyovers are really taken care of, and nothing really seems to filter into the cabin. So in all those things, the VW Polo really does a very good job. And this 110 bhp, as I just said, is a very responsive unit. But that's not all. And the gearing also on this car is pretty good, and the engine is very responsive. As I just said, from 0 to 45 kph, it goes up to that speeds in first gear without any problems. The second gear also can be extended to about 70-80 kph, and the engine revs all the way up to its regular 6,500 RPM without any fuss whatsoever. So in all those departments, it's a car which will put a smile on your face. And of course, if you are someone who wants this car to offer you great driving pleasure, then there isn't any other option in this segment which comes close to the VW Polo. It really is a phenomenal car in terms of the driving pleasure, and it's just a car which will plaster a smile on your face, and that smile will remain there for the entire day or maybe for the entire week, because it really is a very happy car to drive and just makes you feel so energetic and so youthful and so strong, because it really is a strong package, and I'm sure that my smile will be telling you that it really is a nice little package in terms of driving. Now, what you'll also like about this car is not only the responsive engine, but also the fact that the visibility is very good and the overall controls are very nimble of this car. The steering wheel is really very nimble, and visibility is also very good because you get a good view of the road ahead. The A-pillar isn't very thick, so you can easily look around it. The side view mirrors might be slightly smaller compared to its rivals, but the depth of field is quite good, and even the mirror over here and the window at the back gives you good visibility. So it is a good kind of visibility, and people who drive themselves will really enjoy driving it. And visibility has to be good and should be good because surprisingly VW have removed the rear parking camera on this car just to save costs. So that's a bit of a miss on this car and something that VW should fix, because when you reverse this car and you don't get that view of the back, it is something which can be a little annoying and a little irritating at times. But overall, for pure driving pleasure, for pure ride and handling, for just a fun factor, the Polo is a great car. And if of course you are someone who drives this car up the hills quite often and pushes this car into corners very often, then you'll really enjoy your experience with this car, because the grip level from the tires is very good. The body roll is always under control and doesn't lean from one side to the other. And just as a package, as I said, it really is a very strong package. Overall, I'll give the VW Polo a strong score of 90 in the driving department. It really does deserve all the accolades and all the good points that I've been talking about. And I reckon that if you're on the market for a car which drives well, which handles well, which offers you a peppy and punchy petrol engine, then this is a car which you definitely shortlist. And now we'll talk about the interiors, the front seats, the back seats, and talk about some weaknesses as well, because there are a couple of weaknesses that this car has, and then give you a final verdict. Well, as soon as you enter the cabin of the VW Polo, you'll feel like you've traveled back in time. You've traveled maybe about 10 years behind in time, because the interiors of this car are, well, more or less the same since the last 10 years. And just like the exterior, it is now starting to feel a little old and outdated. Now, if you are someone, of course, who likes a sober, sophisticated, easygoing design, then you'll really like it. And the good point about this cabin, of course, is that everything is very well laid out. It's very easy to use, very easy to operate, and it's very intuitive. And the quality levels also are absolutely first rate. This is the best car in this segment for sheer quality levels. Every switch, every button, every knob is made from premium quality materials, and you'll never find any fault in terms of the overall quality of the plastics inside this cabin. The top of the dashboard, the top of the door panels, even the center console over here, the lower part of it is very well made and very well bolted together. So no faults with the quality. Anyone who's a quality conscious person, anyone who wants to spend money on a quality car, on a high quality car, will really like the interior of this car. Of course, it is a little outdated, but apart from that, the quality levels are brilliant in terms of sheer build. What you'll also like is the fact that these small buttons over here, which control the roller buttons over here, which control the AC's throw of air, have a very solid click. And let me just make you hear that by bringing my mic close to them. Just the quality of this sound will make you feel very happy inside this car. It feels like a very safe place to be. In terms of the equipment, well, it's not the best in the segment, but it's quite okay. You get cruise control, you get automatic climate control, you of course get this brilliant touchscreen system which is very easy to operate. It comes with Apple's CarPlay and Android Auto both. You also of course get multiple airbags as well as ABS as part of the kit. And the gauges over here have a plethora of information from distance to empty to the actual economy and stuff like that. So you'll be always busy with the gauges. But yes, of course, you miss out on automatic headlamps and a few other features which now cars at this price point have started to offer. In terms of seat comfort, the seats are very good support for your under thighs, very good support for your lower back. And in terms of practicality, it's a brilliant place to be because the glove box is humongous. It is a cool glove box. There's also a separate place where you can keep your wallet or your cell phone or your sunglasses. A couple of beverage holders right over here in front of the gear lever. One big tray where you can keep odds and ends. And of course, elbow box or an armrest where you can keep a couple of mobile phones. And the door bins are also large enough for those big 1 litre bottles from your home. So overall, a nice and sophisticated and urban place to be, very Germanic in its feel. Yes, it's a little outdated in terms of design, could have been a little more sharper, but apart from that, no other problems inside the cabin. And before I forget, the steering wheel also adjusts for rake as well as for reach, and this is a very good thing for those of you who have 3 or 4 drivers driving the same car, because it's always easy to find your perfect driving position, because not only does the steering adjust for both rake and reach, you can also adjust the seat for height as well as for other kind of support. So yes, overall a nice place to be inside the front seats of the VW Polo. Let's jump in the back seat and show you one major negative of this car. So I'm in the back seat now of the VW Polo, and this is the car's biggest negative point, because as you can see, space really is at a premium. There's not much space in this car in the back seat. Now my height for reference is 5'10", and I always adjust the front seat for my height and driving position. So if you are about 5'10", 5'11", then in terms of knee room at the back, you'll really be struggling. Headroom is quite decent, but knee room really is at a premium in terms of the width also. It's not a very wide car, so having 3 isn't a good idea. Only 2 will be good over here. And there's a huge floor lump here, and that is a big issue for anyone who's sitting in the middle, because there's not too much space to stretch your feet. And of course there's a cup holder, and you also get a 12-volt charging point, your own AC vents, but again there aren't any armrests, and the windows also at the back don't go all the way down. So really what I'm trying to say is that this is a big shortcoming inside the Polo. If you have a young family, you have a husband and wife and 2 kids about 9-10 years old, then this is a decent car for you. It's a good car for you. Well, if you have a young family, if you have a young husband, wife, a young couple as well as 2 kids, then those 2 kids can adjust in the back. It's not a big issue. But of course, if you have 2 proper sized adults in the family, then they really won't like sitting in this car, because other rivals like the i20, the Figo as well as the Swift have more space, better comfort, and definitely seats feel a little better in terms of cushioning. So yes, this is the big negative point on the VW Polo, and I really can't recommend the back seats of this car. Let's see how good the boot on this car is, and of course then we'll finally decide the verdict and how good this car really is. Well, so one cool feature on this car is the fact that the boot opens up by pressing the VW logo. All you do is just press it like this, and it acts like the boot opening door. And as you can see, it's a nice and spacious boot. It's decent in terms of overall space and outpower its rivals. There's a bit of loading still, but you can forgive it, because this is present in all other cars. You can easily load up 2 big bags or maybe 3 bags also, and there'll be decent space for that weekend getaway up to the hills. Now if your mother-in-law is coming to your place for staying for about 10 days, then her luggage will be quite okay. But if she's coming for longer than that, well, actually if she's coming for longer, then no other car in this segment can adjust her space in the boot. Overall, I think I should give a respectable score to the VW Polo's boot, and I'll give it a score of 8 out of 10. Well, so overall the VW Polo might be a little more expensive than its main rivals, especially the Swift ZXi, which retails for about 50 or 60,000 rupees less than this car. This car retails at about 8 lakh rupees ex showroom. So yes, it is a little more pricier than that car, and also it doesn't have the same kind of space in the back seat than its rivals like the i20 and the Swift. So those are 2 areas where this car has a few negatives, but apart from that, it is a great little package. If you are a keen driver, if you are willing to ignore the price and the space in the back seat, then it's a car which will put a smile on your face every time you take it out for a drive. It's got the best engine in the segment with that brilliant 110 bhp petrol motor. The ride and handling balance is very good, and it feels very solid and very secure. And in short, if you want a solidly made, no nonsense German car, then there are few options as good as the VW Polo. It's a car which you definitely keep on your shortlist if you're in the market for a premium hatchback.